mean, so all of us and Nick, credit to you, man. I mean, you're going out there and you're doing things, you're trying things. I mean, right now, people that are in school, they're probably learning about case studies that are 20, 30 years old. And there's not a case study that you can look at right now to get you through everything that's going on. So now, if you want to succeed in business, it's a matter of getting out there and trying new things and solving pain points and people's problems and making a business around it. So that's what you're doing. And the way that you started your business is awesome. In terms of how you started with the Facebook group, talk about that for a second. I mean, that's how you start a business.
Yeah, so it's kind of an interesting road of how I actually started. So, you know, Hampton Roads Photographers Network is the Facebook group, and it kind of just happened to be where we were all talking about there's no photography related companies in our area, and we had nowhere to go. There's no resources. And so me and my buddy Jerry Navarrete were talking about it. I was like, "Hey man, I have this idea. Like, I'd like to have a camera store, but I don't want to sell equipment. I'd rather just rent the equipment." And so, we had talked about it, and then he one day was like, "Hey, Nick's opening up a camera rental store," and it was kind of like that push off the cliff. And it's like, "All right, you're off the cliff, learn to fly," right? That kind of situation. And the group was very responsive, and we've grown. I think at that time we were probably around maybe 1,800 or 2,000 members in that group, and now we're around 4,600, 4,700, I believe. And
I forgot about the Facebook group aspect of this.
yeah, I mean really the Facebook group is probably it was probably the reassurance that it could
Well,
sustain
you had
growth.
a you had a network of people that you
Yeah,
could very quickly, ask a question to figure out if it was going to work or not. I mean, if those people
right.
didn't reassure you, you wouldn't have gone ahead and done a lot of the things that you've done.
And what makes it super easy is the fact that you have 4,800 people, whether or not they see it because of Facebook algorithm or whatever, but you have this group of people that you simply go, "Hey, I'm thinking about carrying this piece of equipment. Does this interest any of you?" And 10 comments, 10 comments, people say, "Yes, absolutely," or "Yeah, but I'd rather have XYZ." So you have your customers automatically telling you, "Yes, carry XYZ or carry, ABC." It makes it so much easier. It's just like real time feedback on what you should do to help your business grow, and what you need to carry and who you need to support.
Yeah, I'm jumping ahead a little bit. I think that was an awesome way. It just, for lack of better terms, textbook in terms of how you started your business. The other thing that I thought was really awesome, and I share this story quite a bit when I talk to people when I'm out and about, was what was it? A couple years ago, you and we had met for lunch. And at that point, the government had just shut down because they
Oh,
couldn't
right.
get their budget passed. And you were you furloughed? Was that what was?
Yep. This
And
was probably the first time, I would think. 2000, I think it was 2012 was the first time we got furloughed, or maybe it was
and
2015. I don't remember.
yeah, but I mean, what you did with that, a lot of people these days, man, they act like the sky is falling, and yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do. I just say, no, I'm not getting a job. But what you did was awesome, and hopefully, you know what I'm talking about, where you can pick up, man. But you took the opportunity to say, all right, I don't have to go into my 9 to 5. I'm going to really go out and hustle and see if I can make this a sustainable business. Talk about that a little bit. That was because that's awesome.
Yeah. So working for the government and having these shutdowns, it sucks for a lot of people. I'm not going to say that it doesn't suck for a lot of people, because a lot of people don't have anything to fall back on. But it was the perfect opportunity, and it's one of those things that's out of your control. Like, we can all freak out and run up and down the street screaming our heads off about how insane a government shutdown is, or any situation that is out of our control. But again, it's out of our control. We just have to sit back and go, okay, what can we do as a plan B? What is our plan B? How can we take advantage of the situation? And so with the first furlough and the second furlough and now COVID, I haven't actually been to work since March 24th, and been doing teleworking, and there's just so many opportunities, and I think people let the bad situation overshadow the opportunity. And if you can take advantage of that opportunity, even if it's something minute, even if it gives you 5 more minutes in the day to do whatever it is, exercise or talk to your parents or do whatever it is, you're taking advantage of an opportunity you didn't have. You know, and a downside to that is I don't listen to as many audiobooks because I'm not driving to work. So I'm trying to make it a better habit now to listen to more audiobooks. So
I got a book for you.
what's it called?
I don't know.
It is funny that you mentioned that, though, Nick. I had to run up to Williamsburg yesterday, and so I had an hour to kill and knocked out a podcast on my trip up there and back, and I forgot I missed that.
Yeah, it's so nice. I started listening to a new book, and it gets to the point where like I get home and I'm like, oh, there's 17 minutes left. Do I just sit in the car and listen to it and act kind of weird in the driveway, or
Right?
But yeah, I just think no matter whatever the situation is, if it's out of your control, which a lot of the times things are out of your control, just try to see what you can do, on the positive side. Just see what little change you can do to your business, because just a little bit of something may make a huge change down the road. So
I think sustainability is something that people have trusted in a business for a long time. And I think as technology, and maybe this happened before, maybe it didn't, but as technology gets stronger, and I think companies understand that they can act leaner and work leaner, I think people haven't yet, but are starting to realize that, hey, like, you can own your own business and lose customers or your job, but that thing can also happen when you work at a career too,
Right.
just like that. And I think people, and maybe it's because it's been instilled in us, growing up, that's what, that was the career that you're supposed to be. You go work somewhere and work there forever and yada, yada, yada. And entrepreneurship was not something that was quote unquote taught when I was in school. And I think it's starting to be taught a little bit in schools. I still don't believe that those people really want you to start a business. I still think they want you to go down that same career path. And then if you want to open a business after you have all those other things, then it's the safe bet to do, right? But you can get fired at any point. And living in Virginia, you can get fired for anything, right? And so, you look at the last year and you got all these people who, and I hope people aren't listening and thinking, they're not respecting COVID and they're not respecting we absolutely are understanding what's happening. But we also understand that you control that a lot more. Like, you don't know the inside of a business. You don't know how close that guy was to keeping you around pre or post or during COVID, right? Like, you just don't know. But if you want to control more of that, there's a way to participate in that. Kevin Deja just said this thing right here: big risk, big reward, right? And I think the one thing that always ticks me off about mandates and government initiatives and things like that is when it's like everything's based on the employee, yet they're not really taking the same risk as the employer. And so it's frustrating to see stuff where it's like, oh, you have to do this thing. It's like, oh, but I mean, you just want to get a paycheck. And look, if you just want to get a paycheck, then just go get your paycheck, right? But realize that paycheck can go away at any time because you haven't taken the risk. You haven't bet on yourself the way that other people have. And I think whether you like or dislike that person or not, you have to respect what they're willing to do. And I think that's incredibly important. And I think Nick has done this in a really interesting way where it's like, hey, like, I'm still going to collect that check, and I'm going to figure out a way to control my life more, in the off season, which just happens to be 5 to 9 every day.